Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Power of Words podcast. I am your host, Autumn Pixley. Today, we will be discussing my current work in progress, the park bench. So, what is the park bench, you may be wondering? It's a story about a boy named Evan and his first love. See, his first love was scared about their parents finding out about him when they got caught in the classroom kissing in middle school. And the other person basically threw Evan underneath the bus, saying that Evan forced them to do it. Ever since then, Evan was labeled a loser. He was outcasted by his friends. Even his family didn't know how to help him cope or anything. And he was bullied all through middle school into his high school years. Now, fast forward a couple years later into high school, and Evan's mom gets a call one day when he comes home from school and is told to rush down to the hospital immediately. So her and Evan hop into their car and they drive down to the hospital. And when they get there, Evan is astounded to find that his first love had asked for Evan to be there. See, Evan's first love was very sick, and they had been sick for a very long time. Now, I'm not going to say what his first love was sick from, because that gets mentioned a little later down in the story, and I don't want to spoil it for any readers who are interested in reading. But anyways, it's been the first time in several years since the incident that Evan has spoken to this person. And laying there on their deathbed, they decide that if there was any good time to apologize for what they had done, that it was now. And they cried. They cried while telling Evan that they were sorry and that they loved him and that they didn't mean anything of what they said, and that they were just scared. And they died in front of Evan, and it shook him up a bit. A year after his first love's death, and he found himself feeling like he couldn't go on with himself in the world anymore. So he decided to jump off a bridge. And that's where our story really starts to begin. Now, I want to read you the start of the book. This is the prologue, which the prologue is in Evan's point of view, and it goes into chapter 1, the first couple paragraphs of chapter 1, introducing the other main character in the story. So I hope you enjoy, and pardon my reading voice. It's been a while. Prologue, Evan's point of view. The park bench we used to have picnics on stood before me, abandoned and forgotten. The paint withered and chipped. How long had it been since we sat on its peeled painted benches and enjoyed a sunny spring day, just the two of us? I wondered this to myself as I stood at the edge of the world, it seemed, reminiscing about my life I had so far and about what I had lost most dear to me. Most people would have turned back at this point, but for me there was nothing to turn back to. As I prepared myself for the final goodbye, having nothing to look back at, I felt my hands slip from the railing one after the other as I plunged into the water's darkness, growing all around me. I could feel a cold breeze before disappearing into the water below, a sign that winter was coming, a time usually for joy and family. It made me wonder what life would have been like if I could have prevented your death, or if there was even a chance I could trade my life for yours. Maybe it was the icy water piercing my lungs, or the fact that I never got to tell you how I really felt when you had waited so patiently for my answer, when my chest burned at the sudden memory of your bright smile, the soft features of your eyes as they glowed like stars, and how they lit up when you said my name, the same way a child's eyes twinkle when they see someone they love. As the pressure built up in my lungs, I couldn't hold my breath any longer. Letting out a few bubbles, I could feel myself start to grow dizzy at the loss of oxygen. I tried reaching for the top to get a bit of relief, but it was no use. My foot was caught under some debris at the bottom of the river. Eventually, my lungs started to burn for a breath of air. I began frantically trying to free my foot, struggling as it wouldn't budge. If I had known drowning was so painful, I would have chosen a different way to go out. I thought this to myself as every fiber and muscle in my body began to shoot up in pain, as if I was standing in a fiery furnace burning alive. Try as I did once more, my foot still wouldn't budge. How long had I been under the water for? I could barely move my arms anymore as my vision started to blur. Was this how I was gonna die? Had I been less selfish and opened up more, would anybody have known I was here? Usually is the part in movies where the character's life flashes before their eyes before the hero rushes to rescue them. But seeing as how my life wasn't a movie and how heroes don't exist, I saw no hope in getting it out. Nobody was ever going to know I was even missing in the first place. My only regret in life was not being able to tell you how I felt. I remember the day my mom got the call and we hopped in our car to meet you at the hospital after years of not talking to each other. As you lay dying in the hospital, your hand trembling in mine as tears streaked our cheeks. As you told me plain as day that you didn't want me to leave you, that you didn't want to die alone in a hospital room full of strangers you didn't know. That day I should have manned up and told you that I loved you, even though it wouldn't have changed anything between us. When I still had the chance, at least then you wouldn't have died feeling like no one cared, feeling like no one truly loved you when I was there for you all along, when I was always there. Too scared of being rejected, so I didn't speak up, and now you're gone forever. At least this way we'll be meeting again soon in the hereafter. Just a little longer and you won't ever have to be alone again. I had grown so weak that I couldn't hold the last of the air I had in any longer. In an instant, bubbles rose to the surface while my lungs filled up more with water, feeling as though they might burst at any second as I continued to float in place, suddenly feeling sleepy as the vision got worse. In my last moments of consciousness, I must have been hallucinating, for I thought I had seen him swimming towards me as he stretched his hand out for me to grab, but that was simply impossible, seeing as he had been dead for a whole year. After that, everything went dark. Chapter 1. Splash. Jackson's point of view. The mortal realm, as many yokai call it, was rich in abundance of anything and everything you could imagine. While it was forbidden to get involved with the beings that ruled this realm, each human at birth was assigned a special yokai to watch over them, usually known as their spirit twin. While they would never meet, most mortals could sense their presence. As I walked along the clouds on two legs and treaded through the woods on all four like a mad beast, I was often outcasted by my own kind. Finding peace amongst the mortal realm, I felt at home. Never letting myself be seen, I took on the form of a sly fox, my days being spent on all fours, running through the town as I stole food to survive day to day. This life suited me, I often thought, as I would lick my own wounds clean, often being caused by a human who caught me trying to steal, hoping I would learn my lesson one day. There was no use in trying to change. I could never walk as one of them, my final form being just out of reach before I was kicked out of the spiritual realm. Without the guidance of my master, I'm afraid I would be cursed to forever roam as a mere fox, and roam I would. That is until one day I passed by a lonely bridge that stood in the middle of nowhere between the town I robbed and the forest I lived in. As I passed by the bridge I saw every day of my life, I could feel a tug on my spirit's soul. I wasn't sure what to call this feeling, as I had never experienced it before, and like a tug of a boat I started to drift towards the bridge, my feet seeming to have a mind of their own. Well, that's all I'm going to give y'all for now. I don't want to spoil too much of the story. But that's a little sneak peek into what the park bench is about. It teeters on the line of suicide and dark thoughts and how those can affect a person, even the loss of a loved one. And it goes to show that there's still hope in the world for a lot of people. And there's hope that things could get better. To find out what happens between Evan and Jackson, you've got to read the rest of the story once it comes out. For now, that's all the spoiler on the story I'm going to give out, so. Okay, so now let's talk about my debut. See, I'm working towards becoming a self-published author. I have yet to become a published author in the meantime. I started this journey about 2 years ago. I've been writing all of my life. Since I was little, I would write stories and write songs and share them with other people. But I never really got into the whole writing thing until about 2 years ago, when I was down on my luck, feeling like there was nothing I could do to change how I was, and I started writing again to get my mind off of them negative thoughts. And that was kind of how the journey started. I actually wrote one book that's not going to get published, which I had mentioned in the first episode of my podcast on New Year's. And that story was just more of an event story, and every chapter was 1 page, and it was very short, it didn't have a good flow, and it wasn't my favorite. So I don't really think I'm going to go back and fix it to be published. I might think about it later down the road, but for now, it's not a story on my mind. Now, a story that a lot of my friends and family are familiar with is The Kings and Queens of Tragedy. It was the very first real story I indulged myself in, about pirates and dragons and ventures out on the sea and trying to find who you are and what your purpose in life is. And that's what it's about. Fast forward a little bit of thinking, and I realized that The Kings and Queens of Tragedy was a better title fit for the 7th book that's going to be in that series. So now the new title change is The Whisper of Waves for book 1. And it talks about Tess, a girl who doesn't know who her parents is, has no memory of them, but has nightmares constantly. And that story, since it was my first piece of work, it's kind of like my child in a way. And that's the story my heart really is in. But I got burned out on it after a while, after working on it for 1.5 years, and about August of last year, I realized I completely messed up the personalities between my main male lead and my main female lead. So I'm going to have to go back 39 pages and fix their personality before I feel okay with moving on. But since I set it aside, I made a new goal so that I wouldn't get too burnt out while trying to write that series. And my goal is I'm working to write 5 stories. So far I have 3. I'm working on the 4th one. And the 5th one, I might put a poll vote out later on Instagram on my Instagram page to let my audience pick which book they want to see next. And I've got a few story ideas that I want to do. It's hard to pick between one because they're all so good. But The Whisper of Waves was going to be the book I was going to debut with. It was the one I had set my heart on debuting with, but because it's going to take a little longer to write, I decided to make this goal so that I could write a few short stories and a few single books that aren't related in a trilogy or a series in any ways. And since doing so, I've been able to write 3 full stories. Now, once I get done with the 5th book, I will go back and I will edit, starting with The Park Bench. The Park Bench is going to be the story that I decide to debut with. Out of the stories I have written so far and finished, it's one of my favorite tales. It speaks a little bit close to home, and I hope that all of you would give it a chance and that y'all would fall in love with it as much as I have and laugh and cry as much as I have writing the story. It truly is a magical tale to spend your afternoon with. And I'm hoping to have it out on Amazon Kindle before the start of summer this year, because I'm moving soon, and to have to focus on my writing goals along with uprooting my station and all of my things and my pets and moving to a whole nother house, it's gonna get a little hectic in the next months to come. And so while I have the time, I'm working super hard to keep up with the podcast so that all of you are kept up to date on how my story is going and kept up to date on how the progress is going and where I'm at in my story building right now. And I just want to thank you all for all of the support and love and all the kind words you have left me, from my friends to my family to everybody on Instagram who follows me and keeps up with my story. Because having a group of people in my section rooting me on with all their heart to do my best, it just makes me want to write. It just makes me want to sit down and write the day away and just not stop until it's finished, so that I can give all of you a worthy story to read. And I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate every last one of you. Okay, so on a different note, I want to talk about February. It's a little trend going around in the writing community on Instagram lately, where you make time every day of February this month to set aside time out of your busy schedule to work on your writing goals. And I just wanted to say that I'm excited for it. I've already started. I started the month out with 6,552 words on my current work in progress, and my goal for every day is to write about 2,000 words. Last night, for the first day of February, to kick off February, I managed to write 2,204 words in like 3 hours, I think. So I think that was pretty good. I'd be lying if I said I definitely wasn't dying by the end of writing all of those words. It was late at night. But that puts me at 8,782 words right now on my current work in progress. And if I keep up with writing 2,000 words or more, I will be at about 58,000 words by the end of the month, which in return should be enough to finish my book. I'm not 100% sure if it'll be enough words to finish my book, but I'll see when the end of the month comes. For anybody participating, good luck on your writing, girls. Just keep on writing and don't stop. Put on a good playlist. I mean, I make playlists for each one of my books, label it with the book title, and that's the playlist with a selection of songs that I feel relate to the story a lot, that I like to listen to, because that puts my mind in the mood to write that particular story, and it helps keep me from wandering. So let's work hard to get our word goals up, and hopefully a lot of us will be making a lot of progress this month. I look forward to seeing it, and I hope that I can keep up with it, because it is definitely not easy to write 2,000 words in a day. But yeah. Forky out February, everybody. As a writing community, let's do our best, because our best is all we have when it comes to writing. And don't let the haters get you down. There'll always be people that go boo and hiss at you from the sidelines when they don't know how much effort and research and time it takes to write a story that's compelling, a story that moves a person's heart, that tugs on their heartstrings. So, you've got this, writers, authors, bloggers, bookstagram people. We all got this. We just got to stick in it together and support each other. Because support is the only thing that matters when it comes to pursuing a dream you are passionate about. And I stand by that belief 100%. Well, this was a lovely time. I'm glad I got to sit down and I got to talk to all of you about my current work in progress. And thank you to everyone who voted on the poll this week for what my topic for the podcast would be. I hope to see you next month for the next podcast. I'm going to try to keep up with having all of these about the first weekend of every month, but cross our fingers, we'll see how far we get. If any of you have any questions about my current work in progress, or just want to say what you hope to look forward to on the next podcast, don't hesitate to comment below. I will try to answer every comment the best I can without revealing too much about the current story, but I will be sure to reply either with a like on your comment or by reaching out and actually answering your questions. I always look forward to getting all of your lovely feedback, and it's been a journey. It's been one heck of a ride, and we just got to keep on riding it until the very end. I thank you all for tuning in into my podcast today and taking time out of your busy schedules and out of your busy lives and days to sit down and listen to me ramble on about what it is that I love to do and what I have a fire burning in my soul to achieve. So, thank you for giving me your time of day, and I hope to see all of you in the next one very soon. Please, if you're not following me on Instagram, please go. I will put down below in the description a link to my Instagram account. It's where I update about my progress daily, usually once a week, but I try to keep up with it daily while I can. And I talk a little bit about the plots of each of my stories on there. And sometimes I put a little bit of a sneak peek into what's coming up next on there. So please, please, if you haven't already, go and follow me. It will help a lot for keeping up with when the next podcast is coming out, because I update on there when the next podcast is going to happen. I'm going to be updating when my debut is, whenever I'm ready to publish a novel, and all of that fun jazz. So follow to keep up if this seems like a story that you might possibly be interested in. And thank you all. I hope to see you soon, and I hope y'all all have a good day and a great February. Oh, and before I forget, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I know it's a little early for it, but in case you do see this on Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day. I hope all of you lovely couples, even you singles, are having the time of your life. I know I'm going to be eating a lot of chocolate that day. So, that's all for now. Tune in next time. Thank you.